Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Racing Insiders podcast. I am Kate Dillon from Crate Insider and the Cars Racing Show. Over on the right-hand side, we have Jimmy Schiltz, who happens to be my brother, also my partner in the Cars Racing Show, the co-host of this show, and our special guest this week,
very special,
is our good friend Benji Cole from Train Chassis. So, Benji, welcome to the show.
Good to be on here. Glad to join it.
Well, great. Well, even before we got started with the podcast, I was talking about how, I think I was talking with you on the phone today. I think it's pretty funny that sometimes me and Jimmy, we actually meet people in the racing industry completely separately from one another and then don't realize that the other one knows the person. And that was definitely the case here. So you guys go back much farther than me. So Jimmy, take it from here a little bit about your, and Benji and his wife and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, that goes way back. I mean, it's like Benji's the guy. I mean, from that, this would have been 2000. See, when did we meet you, Benji? When were you kicking everybody's ass in the Schwartz car? Was that 04, 05?
2004.
4. Okay.
05, yeah.
So he shows up and kind of like out of nowhere. And the Carolina Clash at that time had been dominated by the whole Jeff Ricky Rambo. That's like that's one word. Jeff Ricky Rambo. Right? Jeff Ricky Rambo.
Yep. So Jeff
all of a sudden Benji
Ricky
Weeks and then Rambo. Rambo. He doesn't have a name. Dennis Franklin, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So then Benji comes out of nowhere at the end of the 04 season and just lays it on everybody. And everybody's talking about it, like, what's this cat doing? And that's the first time I had ever heard of anybody running a stack spring setup. And then he had that. I mean, he just was doing his own thing. And I just admired Benji from that point of just coming in to an established gig and just really not caring about the establishment and just kind of laying it to him. And so when I had met him and I really liked him, he's as authentic as you can be. And when I started doing the raps, it was like Benji was one of my first guys that I talked to, and he's the reason why I ran the Dirty White Boy cars and probably the person I talked to the most when it came to me when I first started running the crate car and everything like that. So I have the utmost respect for Benji, and has been a great influence for me in my racing, and so I appreciate his friendship. And so it was kind of funny when Kate asked me, says, "Well, yeah, do you know Benji Cole?" I'm like, "Do I know Benji Cole?" Yeah, we gotta go way back with Benji Cole. So so this is it's an honor to have you on here, and I guess we're only probably 20 years later and older, grayer, fatter, and ready to talk about the good old days, right?
Yes, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I always wanted to be different. When I started running the Schwartz car down here in this area, I don't know that nobody had even heard of it. And I've always been different. I didn't want to run what everybody else was running. And like you said, I've kind of learned the old school way. I've always done my own thing. I've run pretty much with the help from my dad, and I have had good sponsors and good help, in the later part of my years. But for years and years, it was just me and my dad, and we just done our own thing, learned how to set cars up, didn't know nothing about it. We'd set it up, and if it didn't work, the next week we'd go back a different way till we finally got it to where it would work.
Well, it worked for you. That's for sure. You got everybody's attention. And at that time, as well as you were running it, I would have liked to have seen you run some even bigger races. I mean, you were really good in the Clash, but I think you could, at that time, I think you could have lined up with those guys in the Have Tampa and all that, especially in your backyard.
Yeah, and that was my dream. I just done the best I could with what I had. And Mr. Starrett, I drove for him. He was the last big person that I drove for. And then we run a couple of big races. And I think I had my first World Outlaw race won at Screbbins. And we had some bad luck with a flat tire. But I've enjoyed it. I've had no regrets with my racing. I kind of walked away from it for my kids, and I don't regret it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think you did something similar too, Jimmy, right? I mean, kind of spend more time with your kids and your family, and not that you've gotten away from racing, but not racing yourself.
Oh, it's certainly a choice. I mean, there's no greater resource hog. When I talk about a resource hog, I'm talking about not just money. People want to talk about money. It's beyond money. It's time, energy, effort, obsession, your thought processes. And if you want to compete on the highest level, you better be 100% in on every one of those things.
Yes.
And that means that, there's no room. I mean, to do it great, there's no room for, a family. There's no room for a marriage. There's no room for a job, really. I mean, I'm just saying the way it is. If you want to be really that dedicated and that good at it, and it takes that. And so I wasn't willing to do that in my life. And it's really cool to see people like Benji. And I look at like Petey Ivy's the same way. Petey, like Benji, when you stepped away, you're still winning races.
Yes.
And Petey, when Petey stepped away, Petey was still good. It wasn't like he was running in the back or nothing, but they made the conscious decision. They said, you know what, I'm going to stop and help my kid.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool to see when your family's involved and all that stuff, because you're able to, take two of your loves and put them together at the same time. It's like peanut butter and jelly.
And that's kind of all how this started, because when my kid started driving, I want to keep my kid in new equipment and new stuff, but it had done got to the point to where, you're spending 50 grand to do that every year. And I'm like, I can do this myself. Let's just build one. So we built one. Second race out, we won with it. And then it just started from there. I had buddies that always hung around me and like, would you build us one? So I built the next one. It run good. And then it just growed into what it's grown. I never intended for it to grow into what it's grown into. It kind of just started as a joke. And then 2.5 years later and 60-something cars later, we going wide open.
I know you well enough, though, that money was one part of it, but you had to be different. I know that you couldn't just go in and buy something off the shelf and wait for them to tell you what load numbers to run and show up at the racetrack. I know that's not good enough for Benji.
Yeah, I'm always been that person. I want to do my own thing. I ain't got crazy with cars. I'm not gonna say that, but we still, we're hooked in with shop people, but we're kind of, let's build our shops this way and let's do things this way. And sometimes it's worked out, sometimes it hasn't. But I agree with that. I'm a different person. I don't want what everybody else has got.
Tell me though, I think the listeners really need to know this from a guy like you you were definitively, like committed to being different. And when you are committed to being different and that's what you want to do, like tell the listeners how you have to take the good with the bad when it comes to being on your own island.
Yes, you have to understand going into it, which we do a lot of testing now. But I mean, I'll use last Thursday as an example. We went and tested for half a day. Half of the stuff we did was a second slower. Half the stuff we did, we was 3/4 of a second faster. So you just have to, keep digging and try. I mean, like you said, you hear, well, this person does that or that person does that, but there's always a puzzle. It's not just that one particular thing. That one particular thing might be hot at the moment, but there's 6 more things to go with that.
Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people get hung up. A lot of people get hung up with the fact that they can't handle the losing part. or they can't handle running in the back. And so when they go off and do their own thing, and it's bad, because not all, like, R&D is R&D, right? Some of it works and some of it doesn't work. And so when you try something that doesn't work, and you run like a monkey's ass, and everybody's laughing at you, it's like some people can't handle that. It's a mindset, I think, that going into that you have to know that there's two sides to the coin.
Yes, and it's no different than being a race car driver and racing on the road. You got to understand, when you go on the road, probably for a while there's going to be more downs than there's going to be ups, but you got to live through that. If you want to do this, you got to live through it. And I mean, it's the same way with the chassis business. I mean, we've done stuff to where we've struggled for 2 or 3 months trying stuff, and you're thinking, man, what am I doing? And then you just have to keep digging through it. And, but it is a mindset thing. And it's the chassis building or being on that side is a lot different than the car driving, because you have a lot of different personalities. So you have to learn how to deal with the different personalities, and what's good for one person might not be good for this person. You have to understand that. You can't say, well, this car's winning and this man's doing this. Well, he's a different driver than this man. So you might have to go a totally different shock direction, spring direction, to make this man comfortable over what this man's winning with.
Yeah. I see we got some folks who have joined us, and I got some comments to throw up on the screen here. I see Scott's here from California. He says, hi and happy Monday from storms, wind, rain, floods, trees, and power lines down. Boy, California used to be like the place to live. And I don't know that it is anymore so much.
That doesn't sound like fun.
That does not sound like fun.
Hey, they still have internet, though.
Yeah, there you go. Or at least, or there's a cell tower that's still open.
That's
one
right.
Or the other.
Right.
I see Gerald Farms is here saying hello, everyone. So hello, thank you for joining us. Terry is here from Princeton, West Virginia. And Chris Cheek is here. He says, I hear the train coming, in the words of the Carolina Clash announcer around 2004, 2005. Oh, so that was your nickname, I guess. Tell us about your nickname, and of course your train chassis today. And
I had a man here at our local. He just started calling, because my last name's Cole. He started calling me Cold Train, and it is stuck for as long as I can remember. It's just stuck with that. So, and it actually worked good, because when I was racing, it really made for some good T-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, you were thinking about branding when nobody else was thinking about branding.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Look at that, Benji Cole, the marketing genius.
Well, and I think every announcer likes to have a nickname or some catchphrases that they can do. But what a great one! I hear the train a coming, Johnny Cash right there. And I see Alex is here. Alex Hendren can't beat a train. As long as he's building them, I'll be racing them. So of course, Alex has one of your cars. He's had a couple of them, I think, over the course of time, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe just one. I'm not sure.
Alex has done a great job for somebody that doesn't have a lot of races under his belt, So obviously your cars must be pretty good.
And I'm gonna tell you, that is one race, because I when he first started driving my cars, I promised his grandma, I said, he's gonna win a race. Just stick with me. He'll win a race. And when he called me and he had won that first race, I think I was happier than he was.
Yeah, that was exciting. Well, Jimmy, you and I actually watched that race. Well, sort of. We watched it on Race Monitor from St. Martin.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yep, we were down in there doing that.
Yep, that was fun. And Blue Ridge Late Models is here. He says, hello, guys. Racing season is almost here for the Blue Ridge Outlaw Late Models. There we go. And Watson Racing, Benji Cole is one of the smartest men in racing. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for decades. So Watson Racing, thank you for joining us here.
And that's right, Benji is that old.
Yeah.
When you say decades, when you start thinking about I've known somebody for decades, that's like, it's like that's a long time, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, there's nothing about getting old so far that I've liked.
That's right. I know it. I know it.
Yeah. But here's Haley. I'm assuming this is your daughter. She says, "So proud of you, Dad, chasing your dreams." And
Yes.
lots of heart emojis here. So that's wonderful. I mean, that's something we don't talk about a lot, but a lot of times you forego as adults. A lot of adults will forego their own dreams to help out their kids, and then you kind of come full circle. A lot of people just let their dreams die. But for you to spend time with your kids, with your family, and then, you've been building chassis and opened up your chassis company. I mean, not that long ago. I mean, it's not like you've been building chassis for 20 years. So
yes, it's a family thing. I mean, my wife is bookkeeping and keeping checkbooks and basically keeping me going in the straight instead of going crazy, and my kids sell t-shirts, and so it's a family thing. I mean, it's and I do it. I do enjoy I get to do a lot of other things now with the kids and with my wife, and it's good. I miss I missed a lot of stuff when my kids growing up because of this. So. But they love it. All my kids love it. I mean, a lot of them still go to the races and watch the race when we're racing. So it's a cool thing.
Now, you've also added something new that has to do, besides the chassis. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing with bodies these days, because I think that's very exciting.
Yes, we seen the direction of where this, the laser cutting stuff is going and that kind of stuff. So now we're into laser cutting our own bodies and decks, and it's a lot neater work, and it's actually sped the process up. That's the good thing about it, is where it took you a week to hand cut a body and that kind of stuff. Now in basically a day and a half, you can do a complete car body wise.
Wow.
And it's just a main, big both ways. It's sped it up and a lot neater looking work, that kind of stuff. So we're adding, I just ordered a computerized bender and notcher, so to try to speed up the process again, to where you can just load the roll bar tubing in it and hit the button on what piece you want, and it bends it, notches it, and be ready for welding. So that's been our next thing. We want to try to get faster. That way, instead of it taking a month to do a car, we can try to do a car in a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Sounds like the chassis business is getting to be like the rap business, where you just got to push a button and then a car spits out.
Well, that's basically
right here.
That's what
that's
we
right.
got.
That's right.
That's
right.
And I'll take up for you rap guys. I always used to give the rap guys a pretty hard time, but we doing rapping in-house at our shop. We rap too. And that is a lot more process to that than just hitting a button.
And a little bit.
It's a lot more
to it. Just a little bit. Yeah, that's for sure. Now, you have a house car program too, right?
Yes, my nephew, Blake Craft, he drives our house car, and we run 602, 604, and been running limited. But this year, we've teamed up with Blake Turbo, and he's actually going to drive a limited car for him, which we basically work on the car. It's really nothing different other than somebody else owns it and helps us with it. So
okay. So where is he going to run at? Like around you guys, or?
No, we're gonna run the Blue Ridge Outlaws. I think they've got them kind of a semi-schedule made to where I know they're gonna run the first 2 or 3 Blue Ridge Outlaw races, and then we're gonna run a big limited race at Needmore. So we're gonna try to move around and run the bigger races.
Did you sign up for the 100,000 to win crate races?
Yes, We've signed up for the 100,000 and we've signed up for the 50,000. So
okay. How about that?
We've really worked hard this winter on our 602 program. We got some new stuff that we tested last Thursday with it that I really like and really see that we gained some speed there. So I'm really looking forward to getting that going.
Great. Got a couple more comments here, and I see Stephen Morris says best built chassis in the business. Coming over from YouTube here, and Seth Speed says Benji. There we go. Whoops. Let me show this. There we go. Benji made a winner out of us. Our family is thankful for him. That's exciting to be part of the success of someone else's program. That's exciting.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what makes you feel good. It's like there at the end of my racing career, I could win a $5,000 race, and I'm not going to say I still didn't get excited, but it was, well, we can pay some bills, we can pay the tire bill. It wasn't that jump out and jump on the hood feeling that it was when I first started winning. But now when you're helping the other guys and you see your car win with the other guys, I get that feeling back.
That's awesome. So it's almost like you would rather have a customer or one of your kids win a race than you.
Yes, I get a lot more enjoyment out of it. But I am going to. I've raced a long time with Kenny Harris. He's helped me for a long time. And he has been after me of building one of these new wedge cars. So he has built a wedge, one of the wedge outlaws, and I'm gonna drive it. So
there you go. How about that?
I said I don't think I can make 10 laps, but I'll try.
How about that? So we heard it here first that Benji Cole is going to get back into a race car.
Yep. And I'm tell you, I'm looking. I think that is going to be a good deal when it's all said and done. I think that Mr. Smoot is doing a good job with that right there, and I think that's going to turn into something big. It's just getting it back to all the cars that are set aside right now because the older stuff has a hard time running with the newer stuff. It's just another cheaper way of getting some of these cars back out, getting people back out that can't afford this. I just think it's going to be big.
I think when I looked at the rules on the wedge car thing, it was like, well, I didn't really see a whole lot of areas there where a guy could really come in and have a huge advantage anywhere. You couldn't really spend a lot of money, and it's like some of the technology stuff. I didn't see it. Kind of like closed a lot of those holes up.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Well, you got to look at it like with our 604 stuff. 604 and above now. I mean, basically, we're running the same cars that we're running super late model shock wise. And I mean, and the shock situation is, and I know it's just the times we're living in, but I mean, shocks is almost as much as a motor.
Yeah, that's insane. Insane to me. I mean, there's a time and place for everything, and I just don't think there's a time and place to spend that kind of money on, on that part of your car for like what crates should be, like a beginner or an amateur class, kind of hobby class kind of thing.
Well, I'm a racer, and I can't give all the answers, but I know the local racing, in my opinion, is in trouble if we don't head this off somehow. Now, I don't know what the answers are, but I with the prices of everything that's going up and that kind of stuff, and I know things has went up for the racetracks, but we're basically still on a local level. You're running for the same amount of money that you run for 15 years ago, and it's so much more to go over there and race, and it makes it. You want to support your local track, and I will. I will always support them whether I'm racing or not. I will help money wise or sponsor wise or whatever. But it's just hard to spend $800 on tires to go run for $800.
Right.
And I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what the answers is, but I wished everybody that's in the racing community could start putting their heads together to head this off, because I just fear that our local racing is going to play out if we don't do something.
I don't know if you listened to the podcast a few weeks ago where I likened it to the fact that I feel like I'm riding on a jumbo jet airplane, and if that's representative of our racing, and I look out up in the cockpit and I realize there's no pilot. And that's kind of like where our racing's going, that there's nobody out there that has the power. I mean, there's, people like, obviously your individual promoters are doing things here or there, regional things, local things, whatever. But, as far as from a top down view, there's really nobody that's interested in keeping, weekly racing afloat. And that's the part that scares me the most.
Yeah. I think there's one key word that's actually missing from a lot of this, because we hear affordable a lot, but what we don't hear is fun. And I think what is exciting about those new wedge cars, which, by the way, Jason did announce that on this podcast, which was very exciting. I feel very honored by that. But I just had an experience this not this last weekend before, and went to a Race Logic chassis school, and it was the hobby stock guys in Nebraska. So they're everything it's a stock car, but you can't make all these bazillion adjustments. And I'll tell you, I've been to a lot of Race Logic chassis schools because I go and I film them, but I learned more. I enjoyed it more than any of the super high tech stuff that I've seen. And it makes me wonder, like, hey, maybe one of these simpler cars where everybody can get on the same page about the fact that we're here to have fun. Yes, you want to win, but are you on a trajectory where you want to go to the like Saturday Night Racer and you want to go have fun each Saturday night? Or do you want to be on the path where you want this career or this future, and you want to end up potentially being, running with the Outlaws or Lucas Oil guys? And maybe that's just something that we can ask racers, because unfortunately, we get these classes you get a class of cars and they keep getting more technical, and it's like this arms race that always happens with these race cars. And then before we know it, what started off as maybe we take the word affordable out of it by putting it in fun. Is it making it more fun to have more expensive parts? I don't know. If it is, great. But I kind of think that some of the fun goes away when we just escalate the level of technical difficulty and cost. But you guys are actual racers. I mean, I sell the parts, but I mean, I'd love to hear your perspective on those, both of you guys.
I mean, my daddy has made the perfect comment, and I guess just watching me, he has told me several times, son, we just ain't had the fun we've had when we had these old hobby cars. And honestly, he's right, because I mean, it's when you take the car to the racetrack as much as it costs now. I mean, when something bad happens, it's just, instead of 20 years ago when you blow the motor, it was $5,000. Now when you blow a motor, it's $55,000. Mm-hmm. It's, and honestly, the racing part of it, if you watch right now, because the supercars and the all of them, it's bled down to all of them. We're so aero dependent now. If you go to a race right now and watch a race, the narrow tired street stock cars, modified cars, 4 and 5 wide, they put on so much of a better race. Now with the aero stuff that's going on, I mean, I'm not saying that you don't still have good racing, but you don't see the 4 and 5 wide racing like you seen years ago.
Well, you look at, like, right now, I don't know if it's over or not, but the Daytona 500 is going on right now. And what they keep doing to those cars is they keep giving them more grip and taking away horsepower. And the lower that ratio is, the worse the racing is. The greater the ratio, like you're saying, put a big motor on a narrow tire, and you're going to see some good racing at the top.
Yeah,
you know, because you can maneuver, you can use, so
it's but definitely for me personally, the fun of it is not like it was years ago, and I think a lot of that is just because of the cost. The passion's there, the same it's always been, but like you said, now when I told some people the other day, we got to talking about this, and I can't remember exactly what year this was. It was probably 2003, 2, right in there. But I can remember buying a Warrior chassis, race ready, minus the transmission, for $15,000. Which that's still a lot of money. But when it goes in the wall or it needs to be fixed, that is not near as bad as watching you drive 45,000 in the wall. And that, theoretically, that right there, personally, it takes fun out of it because of the expense.
Mm-hmm. And we have people too that, like, what we're really missing now, and the first people that are going away is, and I think that if anything is going to bring it back, is going to be the wedge cars, but the guys who really raced for a hobby. We're talking the guys that had a race car instead of a Harley or a boat, or maybe they had a boat too, I don't know, but they had a race car and they could work on it. Them and their buddies could work on it 8 or 10 hours a week or something, wash it if they washed it, show up at the racetrack and go have a really good time. Now this stuff is like I said, the affordability comes in. It's not just money, it's time and effort and energy. If you don't have, if you don't spend, 40 hours a week on these cars to go run a local show, you're going to be behind. And I just think that's the part where it's like, is that even worth it?
And it goes
we're
for
missing
all of it.
Right.
Just like your tire groove now. Man, you can have 3 or 4 days in grooving tires.
Yeah. I don't know if it was just me or not, but like I try to groove a tire and I was like, it would take me an hour or so to groove a tire. And I'm like, it's like, it's like, I could have been doing something else with my life. I can look back on this and say, man, I'm really glad I spent 1,000 hours of my life grooving tires. There's nothing else I've wanted to do more than that. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure that there'll be some kind of an automation machine that comes out, or maybe AI can do
Could be, the button. Yeah, I don't know.
The grooving. Yeah, it's got a button. Back to your bodies there, Benji. Then the bodies that you are able to do with the laser, is it just for your chassis, or are you able to also do those for racers who have different types of chassis than what you sell?
We've started. We're right now we're doing them for our cars. We have done a couple of Longhorn cars. We've done one rocket car. But when the machine was purchased, we want to keep the machine busy. So it's not just for train chassis, or we eventually want to be able to cut and bend and do all the bodies. It's just a time consuming thing, because every car's got something that's a little different deck, a little different body. So you just have to go through the programming and stuff. So we're slowly getting there, but we're and it's really took off good. The body thing is staying pretty busy right now.
So what's your goal?
Let me ask you a question, Jimmy. So with these laser cut bodies, do you also find that helps you with not your design process, but I not everybody probably knows this, but you actually adjust your wraps to coincide even with the angles that are happening on the body. Despite the fact, like, the top and the bottom are not necessarily parallel, but when we're looking at the design, we're looking at the car, you get the sense that, you make sure that you've got the logos that are all lined up along the bottom and everything's lined up along the top. Do the laser cut bodies help you with what you're doing with wraps?
Oh yeah, I mean, it saves a lot of time too, because anymore, I mean, I'd say 90% of the cars that I do anymore are like Longhorns, Rockets, Capital cars, and I have all the body templates for those things really close, so I don't have to ask, to do a measurement sheet. So, you can be a lot more precise with your, placements. And like you said, I mean, something you told me a long time ago about something totally unrelated, which was that if you if you don't do something, everybody's going to notice it, but if you do it, nobody will notice it. And I think there's a lot of things that I do with the wrap stuff that nobody notices, but you'd notice if I didn't do them. And it's just part of the precision and the details. And but knowing the templates and stuff are certainly a big, big, big part of that.
Transparency of design. Yes, transparency of design.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's what it is. I'm being transparent.
Yeah.
Like I said, now that I've seen the wrap stuff coming off this machine, and I do have a bigger respect for. I used to be like, "What are we waiting on this wrap for? Come on, let's go!" All you gotta do is hit a button. Nah, it's way more than that.
Way more than that.
Yeah.
lot goes into that for sure. Excellent. Well, what else is exciting?
We've got a new chassis that we're building right now. It's basically coming off the jig now. It's got a lot of new features on it. We're gonna take it and do some test. There'll be a lot of testing done with it, and to make sure that everything we've done is what we think it's going to do, and before we offer it. But we have done a lot to thinking this week, this winter, and we put it on the new chassis that is being welded up and getting ready to go to the powder coat now. So there's good things coming. We've working really hard and close with HST and Penske shocks, and we got some new stuff coming with the shock program that I think is going to be really good. We just that was some of the stuff that we did with the 602 program, and really, really seen some big gains there with that. So, just staying busy. We've had a real good winter. I was telling you before we come on the podcast that I really look for it to be a slow period, but so far everything's going good, and maybe this economy won't tank and we can keep it going.
So now we've talked about all the good parts of the chassis business and stuff. What has been your most challenging part of being a chassis business owner?
I guess you want to be able to talk to everyone that calls and help everybody at that moment, and it's just hard. You answer the phones, you do the best you can. I had to get used to not everybody is going to win with them every time they go to the race, and as a competitor, I'm wanting to see all of them run good. And you're going to have cars that win, you're going to have cars that run in the middle, and you're going to have to have cars that run in the back, and you just keep focusing on the ones that need help and try to get them faster. And that's been the biggest challenge, because I want to, and I know it gets harder as you get bigger, but one of my big pet peeves that I've had in the past is, if people spend this kind of money with you, you got to be able to talk to them. I mean, it's a hard deal. It's kind of like going to the dealership and buying a new truck. If you go buy a new truck and call up there and tell them the engine light's on and they won't call you back, it don't give you a good feeling.
Right.
So that's basically been my thing, is how to manage you got to set that time to talk, to be able to talk and try to help, but then you got to set that time to focus on building and getting cars out the door. So that's been the biggest challenge, is as it's grown. both of them has become more because you're trying to get more cars out the door, and the more cars you're getting out the door, you got more people you need to talk to.
Mm-hmm. So what's your goal? Where's Train Chassis gonna go?
I mean, honestly, I know this shouldn't be what I should do, but I really haven't set a goal. I mean, like I said, this just started as fun. I want to see some of the cars run on a big level, and we're slowly getting. Kenny Harris and Adam Smith is the driver. They've running a new late model motor in their car, and then Kenny Collins has purchased a car that he's going to run in supers. And I would like to see if the cars can compete on that level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about the area that your cars that where you have them right now? Are they mostly in the Southeast, or
mostly? Mostly it started out. I mean, we're in our area, and then we have a couple of cars up in Tennessee, North Georgia, Atlanta, that way. Couple in North Carolina, South Carolina, right in that area. Kenny Collins aggravated me the other day because the car that we fixed for him, he raffled it off, and it's in New Mexico. So he said, "Now you got your car in New Mexico." But
great.
Like I said, it started locally here. A lot of the drivers locally have got them, and then we've slowly started getting them in the bottom part of Tennessee and North Carolina and Carolina, and that's what we're trying to do some stuff right now to get expanded on out a little bit, and run at different tracks. We really want to work on our slick track program. So the house stuff this year, we're going to try to get off some of the red clay stuff and start getting to the slicker side of things and keep working on that real hard.
It's just a lot of work to build out a notebook for, any kind of chassis, and with all of those varying conditions. So hats off to you on working through all of that, for sure.
And that's what we did. Last year I took Blake and we run the 604 car. We run 90% of the cruiser, what is called?
Crate Racing USA.
Crate Racing USA. And Blake had a baby, so we had to quit running it. But we was running second in the points in it when we quit. So I was real proud of that. At first, some of the 90% of the racetracks is I've never had seen myself, and he had never drove at them. So I was real pleased with the way that went until we had to quit for his baby being born. But I mean, I just, I think the more people we get in, the more feedback we're getting from the drivers is just going to help us as a whole company.
Yeah. We've got some more comments here too. And Russell says, Train chassis are great. And he says, that's right. The great chassis builders talk to us. Rayburn, Shaw, GRT, Joe Garrison, etc. Best customer service. So that, that the fact that the chassis builders talk to the racers is such an important aspect of being a chassis builder. You're more than just a wrench guy, for sure.
So what's Benji Cole's favorite racetrack?
I would probably have to say Tri-County.
Oh, there you go. The first time I went to Tri-Counties with you.
Yep.
And you were good. I mean, that was remember when me and you hung out that weekend when you first got the Dirty White Boy car? Went to Cleveland and then we went to Tri-County. And you ran
second race out, run second.
Yeah. And man, you were really, really good there. That was fun.
When I was racing, I really loved the little bull rings. That was my kind of racing. I like the track rough, jumping purses and stuff. I loved it.
I remember that night at Tri-County we went there. It's like I'm looking at the racetrack and I'm like, I don't even know how you guys even get around here. This felt like it was about 10 feet wide. There was a hole that was about 6 feet deep in 1 and 2. And I'm like, how in the hell can you race? And you did. I was like, wow.
That's my kind. I so wish when I was in my prime, the Gnome would have been racing one out because I would love.
Oh, yeah.
That.
I could.
It'd be fun.
But
another comment here. Gabby Cole says, "Go Bestie, go!"
But I like the longer tracks. You know, I won some races when Longdale was still running before it. I like them places too. When you got a good car like I had right there in the 05 and 06 and stuff, I like running everywhere. When you got a good car, it makes that even better. You know.
Got another comment here from Roger. He says, "I certainly don't run my train to its capability, but I really appreciate all the patience and help from Benji. I can't ask for anything better. Proud to be a part of it and glad to have the friendship." So that's from Roger Outry.
I wish I had a train chassis the first time. Well, I'd say I've been to Hartwell twice. My first and my last time. It was on the same. So I wish it was a train chassis because I would have called up Benji and I'd have been like, "Benji, first of all, I can't get over the smell of chicken shit. I can't do it. It's like I'm trying to drive in the car here, and it's like filling up my helmet full of chicken shit, right? And it's like the guy in front of me keeps throwing the chicken shit water up on the racetrack, and it's like I'm covering my shield. Can't get over it, Benji. My car doesn't work in chicken shit water. So what am I supposed to do?" I would have called Benji and asked him that because that's exactly what happened to me. That's exactly what happened to me.
You got to get used to it. I can remember just like it was yesterday when my wife come to this house the very first time, and when she pulled in, she smelled the chicken shit, and she said, "This ain't gonna work." But 20 years later, now she works in the chicken houses and probably more than I do. So you just got to get used to it.
I stayed overnight at Benji's house, and I don't know why it's worse in the morning because I didn't smell it when I went it was at night, but I woke up next morning, went out on the front porch, and I was like, I was knocked over. I said, "Benji, what in the hell is that smell?" He said, "That smells like money."
Money.
So you raise chickens. I didn't know this.
Oh man, there's chicken houses all over the place.
Yeah, my daddy's raised chickens for, I guess, since I was 5 years old, and then finally, middle of last year, he told me and my sister, he said, "I'm done. They yours. I ain't going back out there." So, me and my sister.
Now you got you a chassis business and a whole bunch of chickens.
And a farm. That's exactly right. It just added more work to it, but it's all good.
How about that?
Oh, and we have a question from a viewer. Derek says, "Hello, folks. Good to hear y'all. Ask Benji Cole, what's his most memorable win?" So, Benji, what is your most memorable win? Great question, Derek. Thank you.
I probably would say the first big late model race I won was a Southern All-Star race at Hartwell. And I'd say that's probably my biggest just because it was my first. And it made it all. Your family was there. All the people that told you couldn't do it, they was there. So that made it even better. And that's kind of when it all started. That was a 2003 year, finished it up. And then the next year we bought the Swartz and got on a good shop program and had some good help. And that's kind of, for 3 or 4 years, we had a pretty good run with the late model stuff.
He sure did. I don't know how Hartwell keeps coming up in this podcast, but, go Hartwell, right?
Well, they've shut down now.
Oh, did they really? I didn't know that.
I don't look for, there's got to be a lot of work done, I guess, for the fire marshal stuff. And me personally, I don't really look forward to probably open back up. So I would say, it'll take a person that just wants to spend some money, that loves the sport, and knowing that he's probably not going to gain it back out of racing, that I'd say it probably won't open back up.
So what racetracks are running around you now?
We have Livonia Speedway, which is just a couple of miles from the house. And then we have Decoa Speedway. And I think this year they're going to they got a schedule where they kind of going to alternate weekends and run together. I think one of them will run one Saturday, the other track will run the next Saturday. That way they're kind of not running against each other. And then about 30 or 40 minutes from the house, we have Winder. And it's just a little bitty old racetrack, and everybody, I love the race. It's just little, and they pack that place out every Saturday night. So, but that's really the three places that we got going. It's kind of semi-close to the house.
That's cool. How far is Sonoya from you?
It's only really, if you didn't have to go through the Atlanta traffic, it ain't but about a 2-hour ride.
Okay.
But when you add the Atlanta traffic to it, it's about a 3-hour ride.
Okay.
So that's, you know, I think Dixie is going to open back up this year. So that'll be another racetrack that's on this side of Atlanta that ain't as hard to get to. So this area is pretty good with racetracks. I mean, you can, you know, Tri-County, hour and a half from home. Sugar Creek's open back up. That's hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours. So there's a good many tracks within an hour and a half, 2 hour span.
Good deal.
Great. We got some more questions here. So Derek's got a question for you, Jimmy. Says, what's your favorite wrap that you did in 2023?
Oh, in 2023, my favorite wrap. Oh, this is easy. This is easy. It would be the Willie Milliken, like the one I did at the show, if that counts.
Yeah.
The like the digital camo thing with that tan color. Man, if I raced again, that's what my car would look like. Now it's kind of weird because I think maybe I'm the one that actually loved it, but I mean I think some other people loved it. Other people were like, I don't know, I don't really like it, but I loved it. But it's really weird. It's interesting being a rap guy. How like done a lot over the years, and there's raps that I've done that I just didn't feel like were really that special or that good, and people are like, oh my gosh, that's the greatest thing ever, you know, what'd you do? And I'm like, it's a rectangular stripe that's on the side of it, you know what I mean? It's like you know, but then I do raps that I think are really awesome and nobody talks about them. So but I would say definitely the Willie Milliken one. Past that one, they all kind of run together.
Well, you do a lot of stuff that's kind of has to be on brand for like the racers, or that it's just kind of part of their program. They don't want to change a whole lot from year to year.
Yeah, I mean, like there's, you know, when you're especially in the ones that you see, like take like Davenport's black and green one there, you know, I mean, there's so many things that you can't do when you have like a main sponsor kind of thing. It's not like you have free reign to do whatever. And I think that I've done this a lot of times with people. And even though I don't do this car, I always think that one of the most recognizable cars is always the Rocket One. You know, it's a real easy, I mean, it's like the Rocket One has always looked good. It just always has. And so I've had people that have been like, I don't, you know, like I really like the Rocket One car and my car doesn't look like that. Well, that's because you have a 3-digit number, you know, or something like that, or your number's on the quarter panel. It's not going to look, I said, and I've done this. I'll be like, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take your design and I'm going to throw the Rocket One on it and send it to him. Yeah, I love that. Not a lot I can do about that. You know what I mean? So it's like the sponsors on the quarters and the doors, you know, like how they, you know, you can't have like a real scripty font and it, you know, like, and have like 29 letters of like, you know, Flowers by Mary on the quarter panel and it being some dainty, scrolly, scripty kind of deal. And it's not going to look racy. It's just not. I don't care what you do. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit, right? I'm just unless you're at Hartwell, you know. Hartwell, they made racetrack gold out of chicken shit. But you know, speaking of that, I was kind of go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, you speaking of, you mentioned that you did that rap at the show. So the show, of course, we're talking about is the Cars Racing Show. And Benji, I'd like to, no pressure, but love to hear about, the advantages of like having a presence at the Cars Racing Show and how that's helped your business what your
actually my first year that we did the show, I sold 3 cars from the show that people that didn't even know who Train Chassis was until they walked through the show and looked and that kind of stuff. And I just think I think putting it in the car show, because to me, the car show is more of a dirt. I mean, I know there's other stuff there, but it's more of a dirt show. And, and like I said, you just meet new people and stuff that maybe would never see your website or never talk to you, but you see them at the show. So, I think it's a real good thing. I really do.
I think it's been, I just see people like you and Benji Hicks, really thrive at the show because, like Benji, I've known you for a long time, and, you're just a likable kind of guy. It's just something about you that's like when you talk to you just feel like you're really just as genuine and down to earth and straight shooter and all that stuff. And I'd imagine that when people come up to you and be like, I've never heard of Train Chassis. Well, whose chassis is this? And they start talking to you, and then people are like, man, I like that guy. I'm going to buy a car from him. And so it's that, it's like, so the show is selling yourself as much as it's selling your chassis.
Chassis, yes. Like I said, it lets you meet a lot of people, and even me personally, I'm meeting vendors and stuff that I would probably never talk to if I didn't go to the car show. So it also helps our brand get help. I've got a lot of help from drive shaft people and brake people and stuff that's come from the show. So it's worked good both ways. I mean, it's helped me as far as getting the brand out there as much as getting other help from vendors.
That's exciting to hear. And, of course, my question is a little gratuitous because, of our show, but I know that it's the connections that we make. I know it's helpful for Crate Insider to be, of course, at the Cars Racing Show, and probably you too, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it does. Get to see a lot of people, meet a lot of people that that you have never met before, and and I always think that one of the best things about it is being able to talk to people in an environment. I mean, like, at least for me, like right now, I mean, I came in here from working, and I'm gonna do this podcast for an hour, and I'm gonna go back out, and I'm gonna work till probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning or something. So that's just the way it is this time of year. But at the show, I dedicate 2 or 3 days of doing nothing but the show, so I can talk to people and it saves me a lot of phone conversations, put it that way.
Yeah.
And so
another reason I like it too is because just like with Train Chassis, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that you might not never hear their name, and they're getting to come watch the product and see the people talking about it. And that like the Steve Morris is the chassis builder that does the fabricating and the welding, and so he comes to the show. So them people that's walking up, looking at the car and saying, "Man, this looks good." It's basically a tribute to what he's doing, So it's more than just, like I said, Train and Benji. The Benji gets majority of the credit, but I couldn't do this without the people in the background, and there is a lot of people that help on this, that has helped get me started in it, that has helped it grow. And I mean, I'm forever thankful for all of them,
So, do you have your wedge car done yet?
Well, Kenny's doing the wedge car now. Well, I actually think he's waiting on me to come run some brake lines, but it is very close. I don't know that we'll make the first one, but it'll be real close.
Well, if Jason Smoot's watching, you need to look at this guy's car, because he's going to bring some of that North Georgia voodoo magic stuff, whatever that you guys do. Because Benji will tell you, like, I'm all for rules and everything, but, like, my God, I'm going to bend them as much as anybody. Right?
Well, he thought, I looked at the car at the show, and he already told me some rules. He said, "No, we're gonna be checking this, and we're gonna be checking that." So called Kenny while I was at the show, and I said, "Don't be trying to get away with that, because he's gonna look at it."
That's right. And I know Kenny well enough to know that's what that's Kenny's MO too. Kenny loves to be thinking about that stuff that nobody else has done. So getting that little advantage here and there,
Gray area.
I'm looking forward to it. It's strictly fun. That's what Kenny said. He said, look, man, I don't care if we get lapped. We just going to go enjoy it and have a good time and just have fun. It's basically one of them deals. Let's just go back and have a little fun instead of it being so serious.
Yeah, I think that's what's cool about it.
That's great.
So was that one of your old cars that you did, or is that another chassis?
No, it's actually I don't even know what year, 2007 or 8, 6, somewhere along in there, a Bloomquist car.
Okay.
So
Oh no, people heard it's a Bloomquist car. Oh, he had to bring the Bloomquist car to Blue Ridge Outlaws. Yeah,
but it is
Cheater.
actually, if you remember years, it might even be older than that, when Bloomquist built a car to run leaf springs.
Okay.
And this is
I remember hearing about that. Okay.
I mean, it's been years ago, and somehow I don't even know how Kenny ended up with it. He's had it put up in a building. And when they started talking about this Wedge Outlaw stuff, he said, we're going to break it out and put a body. And they've done a good job. It's got the body just like the old cars. It's pretty neat.
Hey, Jimmy, I think there's a Dirty White Boy chassis in one of your garages there. Maybe we can throw some wedges on that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I know. I talked to Smoot about it a little bit. I've thought about it. Don't think I haven't thought about it.
I'm thinking.
I'm actually more enticed now that Benji's doing it, because that would just be a lot of fun to race against Benji.
Like I said, and there's been a lot of talk about this. I mean, I've had people calling me that's been racing 602 that have other cars and stuff. It's like, man, we building us one of these cars. This is the way we need to be racing. It's a lot more affordable and blah, blah, blah. So I really think when he starts about 1 or 2 races here, he's going to be having to figure out how he can have 2 main events.
I think that's a great thing, to be able to have a car count.
Yeah, so, that's exactly right.
But I think it's those guys that are realizing that, like I had a guy, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, stop by the shop and pick up a wrap, and he had just picked up his shocks, and I kind of got up on my soapbox and said my tirade about like why I don't think that spending at that time it was like $7,000 for a set of shocks or something was a good thing for crate racing. So he was like, and he kind of argued with me. It was like, he said, I think it's a good thing because he just picked up his $7,000 set of shocks. It was like a year later, and he goes and he's going to pick up his wrap, and he stops by and he says, you know what? They ought to do something about this shock rule, because the $7,000 shocks are now $9,000, and he's spent out. He can't keep up with the $9,000 with his $7,000, so he's screwed. So now he's like, I think they should do something about it because he had reached his limit. So, it's when it's kind of like a black hole, and you just you're going to buy in today, and then tomorrow you're spend, it's like it's something else, and your stuff is junk. You know what I mean?
Well, and the shock stuff right now is changing from week to week.
Yeah.
So it's not only buying that set of $9,000 shocks, it's 2 weeks later, this new shock's better than that shock.
Right. And if you want to keep up with that, so I don't know. I think that's cool, where like a regular guy just doesn't want to keep up with that stuff. They just don't want to bolt 4 shocks on it and go. I mean, racing was a lot better when we ran, 75s in the front and 94s in the back, right?
Yep.
Is that what it was? Is that what they were?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Years ago. That's exactly right. Buy AFCO shock for $80.
That's right. $80.
You know, I mean, you know, like I said, I'm not down in the racing. It's how I make my living. And I mean, and, you know, but I think there's some things that we can do to help the sport, but it's going to take all of us.
And I don't think I don't want anybody to think that I'm like anti-shock or anti-money or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just there's a time and place for everything. I think the supers right now are putting on a fantastic freaking show. It's awesome to watch those guys. Let them guys do their thing. Pay them guys all the money. But I don't think that stuff belongs in a 602 class. And that's different.
I agree with you. I'm with you.
So same with like the street stocks and the modifieds. I mean, that stuff's a little different now because when street stocks and modifieds, you know, were popular as an entry level class, that was when you could go to the junkyard. You could get subframes and you could get, you know, that stuff's not available anymore. That all stuff's gone.
That's right.
So now they're having to go back and spend more money to reproduce that stuff. And then it's kind of like you have to ask yourself, are we still working under the spirit of the class, spirit of the rule? Or let's just go ahead and just build the damn things and be done with it.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, we got a few more comments here. I'm just going to throw them up on the screen. I see Shane Yarbrough here is saying train chassis. He's got a little train emoji and a checkered flag.
That guy knows his emojis. Look at that. Train with a checkered flag.
I love it. Love it.
That's awesome.
Oh, I love how we can actually see emojis now because we used to not be able to. So now that we can see these on using StreamYard. KL says, "Hey there, Kate." And Derek says, "Winder," or I don't know if it's Winder or Winder, aka the Baja, is a must-see place on a Saturday night. When we were talking about tracks, have you guys been to that track? I don't know if it's Winder or Winder.
Winder, that's the Winder track that I was talking about. And Derek, he's the announcer over there, and he puts a lot of excitement into it, just being the announcer. But I really think if times keep going the way they're going, that Winder will end up being the premier track around here.
How about that?
I've said that to some people today, and they like, well, I said, just watch what happens. There's never a weekend that I go over that I've been to Winder that I haven't seen the stands packed. Never.
That's good.
But it's a little bull ring track. When you want to pass somebody, you're going to nudge on them a little bit. You're going to rub on them. And I just think it's a place that the fans really go. They do get to see a good show.
That's great. Russell says, "Don't be standing on the track when the train is coming." And we've got, I don't understand that hand symbol with the emoji. I see Vivian is here. She says, "Hi, this is Benji Hicks' grandma. Love watching y'all." So she was watching. We had Benji Hicks on the show a couple weeks ago. And speaking of a couple weeks ago, sorry I wasn't on the show, or we didn't have the show last week. I got sick. I got some flu bug or something. So. And
it's funny. I got a good story with Benji. Me and Benji talk a lot, and they can't. All our vendors cannot get Benji Cole and Benji Hicks. We have a problem. Half the time, I got stuff coming to me that's supposed to go to him. He's got stuff coming to him that's supposed to go to me. And it's funny, you know. I like Benji. He's a pretty cool character.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe y'all can use it to your advantage. It's like that time when now this story is hearsay, so I can't exactly like tell you that I know this for sure. But this is what I heard. I heard that like it was Speed Weeks, right? And it was Ray Tucker. Ray Tucker, the guy that raced up around here, won all like a gabillion races or whatever, went down to, it was like East Bay or Volusia, one of the two or whatever. And whoever was with his crew went down to the Hoosier trailer. And they said, and he was going to pick up his tires. And they said, and maybe somebody that knows the story better can come and can chime in. But they said, "What car are you with?" And he said, "The Zero." They gave him tires for the Zero. He goes out there, and then they mount him up, put him on the car. Then the Hoosier guy comes down there and says, "You're going to have to give those tires." Now they're under a tire rule. He says, "You're going to have to give us these tires back." And then Ray Tucker was like, was a super badass. I don't think anybody ever like screwed with him or anything, because I think he like was just an intimidating kind of dude. I never met him, but I know the stories. And he's like, "You're not getting these tires back or whatever." And so, anyways, Red Tucker went out there and won the race, won half a Tampa race or whatever with the tires from the Zero. Just saying. Just saying. You know what I'm talking about, right?
That's right. That's right.
Oh, that's fun. And Heather's asking, didn't you win a super race at Winder, Benji?
Winder.
I won.
Yes.
They had two super races, and I won both of them.
Wow, that's great.
How about that? He's the Winder world champion.
Yeah. And Blake is here. He says, Blank Kerbo, you mentioned him earlier. He says, thanks to Benji Cole and Blake Kraft for helping me so much with my racing program. So thank you there, Benji.
Good guys, man. I like I said, this is a team. It takes the customers to make this deal go, and I've got a lot of good ones.
I really am glad to see people like you and Benji Hicks, Lee Cooper, that are building cars specifically for guys like us that you know what I mean. We're not people that love to race that weren't that don't have a $10 million in the bank or anything like that might not get the help from other people, but you're out there building cars for them and helping them. That's really cool because you're a big part of keeping our racing going. So you need to know that that it's not other people, it's you.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, that's what, like I said, we don't race much around home, but I support the local tracks. We try to sponsor some big races when they have them and that kind of stuff. Because you want to see, even though you're on the road, I don't never want to forget where I come from.
Mm-hmm. With a final thought here, Derek says, the Cole train for president.
Well, I don't think all that chicken shit will ever let you forget about where you come from either.
Oh, no.
I'm just telling you. Every time he walks out and he thinks about all that money, he's got to remind him.
It's like I tell people, the money side of it is I'm going to be who I am no matter if there's a ton of money in the bank or there's zero in the bank. I am who I am.
That's awesome. And we love you for it.
Absolutely.
Like I said, Miss Kate, I think everything that you've done for me, she has helped me more in this racing than a lot of people will ever know, and I really do appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Love working with you for sure. And if people want to get a hold of you, if they want to learn more, connect with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, we have a website page, Train Chassis, and then we got Facebook, and then my phone number 706-567-5981, and I'd love to talk to anyone. Like I tell people when they call me and they're asking about chassis, I give them my opinion on chassis and stuff, and then if I can see that they're still looking for chassis, I send them to the Benji and Lee, and like I tell them guys, we all in this together. We ain't. There's plenty for all of us.
I agree. Any final thoughts there, Jimmy?
Nope. I'm just excited about watching him in a wedge car.
I'm thrilled. I'm gonna have to look up that schedule.
I'm gonna be excited about watching him win a race and then Jason Smith throwing him out. We'll read about it next day on Dirt on Dirt.
Before we make our debut, we're gonna go over here and practice.
That's right.
Don't go good.
He's gonna practice.
That first race.
He ain't gonna show up. He ain't gonna show up unprepared. I can tell you that. He's gonna be ready to go.
I just don't know. I put on a lot of weight since them racing days. I don't know that I can make it 25.
Oh, that left side weight's an advantage. You know what I
mean? Good deal. Well, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. Thank you, and I guess we'll wrap things up and look forward to being back next week on the show. We actually already have a guest already lined up, so we're gonna have Bill from Fast Track. I don't know if you knew this, Jimmy, but Bill from Fast Track is gonna be on the show with us next week to hear all about the new things going on there. So I'm excited. I mean, there's some developments going on, and really appreciate you being with us this week,
Good
Jimmy.
deal. Moving and shaking.
Thank both of y'all for having me.
you're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Well, you bet. See you guys in another one. And Benji, you can stay on for just a second, but we're going to go off live here.